Hello and welcome. This is Jennifer McGuire, and I hope you're having a good week. So today I am sharing with you some ideas for creating peekaboo doors on your cards. This is an easy way to make your card a little more special, add a little surprise to it, and it works with a variety of styles of stamps and dies. So I have several examples for you today, and in each case, there's a little door on the front that opens in different ways. I'll show you several options to reveal more sentiments or images underneath. Throughout this video, I'll be using peekaboo die sets that make creating these doors easy. However, at the end of this video, I'll show you how to create your own if you'd rather do that. Let's start with this example simply because it's super easy, and then I'll show you many variations. Okay, for this one, I'm using a Hero Art stamp set that I've wanted to use for some time, and that is the Orange Blossom stamp set. Now, I stamped and colored one and used the coordinating die to cut it out. Then I have two additional coordinating die cuts that I'm going to glue behind it. This will just give it some stacked dimension. It almost feels like chipboard and will help it stand up on the card. For this one, I'm using the Hero Arts Oval Peekaboo Doors die set. So you can see all the different size doors. That top line doesn't cut, it creates a hinge. So you could do several doors on the front of a card if you want. Here I have a piece of masking paper, and I'm going to put that hinge edge up there right along the edge of my masking paper, and I'll run this through my die cut machine. I want to mask off the area that the door will be so that the stamping is just around it. So I'm going to place this towards the center of this brown piece of cardstock, which is 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, next I wanted to stamp on this background using this Hero Arts Jungle stamp. I'm using my MISTI stamping tool just to make it easier, but you could definitely lay this background stamp on your work surface, ink it up, and lay your paper on it if you prefer. I'm using Hero Arts Unicorn White pigment ink so that I could have a subtle white stamped image on the background. I really like using white on colored cardstock for backgrounds. I think it's a great way to add a little bit of interest. Okay, so I removed that masking paper and I heat set the ink so it wouldn't smear. And now I'm going to line up that peekaboo door with the area that I masked, putting some tape on there to hold it as I run it through my die cut machine. After I've run it through, you can see the oval is cut, but along that straight edge on the top, it's just a scored line that you can fold along. This creates the door that will go on the front of our card, and I like to reinforce it with my bone folder. Now I'm going to take my little orange image here and glue it right to the front, and notice the bottom is hanging off the edge of the oval a little bit. That'll make it an easy place for the person to lift up to reveal the message underneath. Now I'm taking one of the sentiments from that Orange Blossom stamp set and I'm cutting it in half. You can do this carefully with scissors, and you could always put the stamps back together close on an acrylic block to stamp them as originally intended. But by cutting them, I can put part of my sentiment on the front of the card and part under the door. So I'm lining up my little oval piece here on the front of a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch top folding white note card. And I'm going to center there the second part of our sentiment. I like that this sentiment is a play on words of "you are totally an original," but it goes along with the orange theme. So I removed that oval piece, and now I'm just stamping this with black ink right at the center. And I put 3 little dots in front of it since the sentiment is continued from the front. Now on the back of my craft piece, I'm putting tape everywhere except on the oval. And now I can place this right on the front of our card. And when you lift up the oval flap, you can see the rest of the sentiment. I have again stamped another orange and die cut it. And then I die cut one additional die cut and glued those together. And then I'll glue those inside of the door. This will give a little dimension behind the door so the door stands out more, so it's even easier to open. So you can see it does lay flat, but you can easily get your finger under there to be able to open the flap. Next, I'm using the Lawn Fawn Push Here stamp set, which is one that I use a lot on interactive cards. And there's one that says lift the flap, and I'm just cutting off the word lift. And I'm going to stamp it right here on the bottom of this orange with a light gray ink. This is Hero Arts Soft Granite ink. And I'm going to triple stamp that just to make it a little bit darker. But I thought that was a subtle way to let the person know to lift there, but it doesn't distract from the card itself. I also created a white bow of some ribbon that I had, and I'm using my tweezers to hold it there as my liquid adhesive dries. Once it's dry, I added the rest of the sentiment on the front that says "You're a total," and I did 3 little dots with the black pen after it. So here you can see the white stamping on the background. You can see how the oval is kind of lifted a little bit because we have the orange inside with some dimension. And you can easily lift the flap to see what's inside. And the card opens like a normal card, so you can write a personal message on the inside. And because I put lift there, the recipient will know to lift that up. And I'll show you other options to signal that the person should open it throughout this video. This is just one of the many designs. And by the way, you could make this not a card that opens and just put your personal message under the door if you wanted. Okay, here's my next example. This has a little circle area that opens up to reveal a message underneath. In this case, I had some pieces hang off the edge that help to let the person know to open it. Okay, for this I used the Hero Arts Zest Wishes stamp set. This is another one that I've wanted to use for some time. I stamped, colored, and die cut a bunch of the different images from that set. And now I'm just gluing them together with a little bit of Gina K Connect liquid adhesive. And after I have that assembled, it's time to do our background. I used the Hero Arts Fresh Citrus stamp, and I stamped that twice with Hero Arts Soft Vanilla ink. And I'm stamping that onto a piece of white cardstock that is 4 by 5 1/4. This will go on the front of our card, and our door will be cut from this. This time I'm using the Hero Arts Circle Peekaboo Doors dies. You can see there are many size doors. Again, you could do multiple doors on the front of your card if you prefer. I just stuck with one for today, and I mostly use the bigger sizes. So I'm trying to plan where I want my door to be. So I'm just holding the lemon image over it. Then I'll move that and put some tape onto the die and run that through my die cut machine. So I'm just cutting from this white piece with the yellow stamping. There you can see the hinge that the die created so that we have the little door that opens up nicely. So I'm putting adhesive on the back of this, but not on the back of the door. And I'm going to set that aside. I cut another circle door, but this time I cut it from white cardstock, and I'm cutting it so there's a little flap there next to the hinge. You'll see why I'm doing this in just a moment. Okay, so now I'm going to make it so that this is glued to my note card inside of the door. So I have a yellow note card here that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I was going to do craft, but I decided to change my mind and do yellow. And I'm putting adhesive on the back of that extra white door that we added. And I'm positioning that on the front of my card. Now the reason I put that extra white door in there is now this stamped door on the front doesn't like fit in to the opening and get stuck there. By putting that extra white piece in there, it helps it to stand out a little bit and makes it more obvious for the recipient to open up the flap. See how it kind of pops up a little bit there? I glued our little lemon arrangement on there, and this is another thing that I think is really helpful. Now I have 2 extra lemon die cuts that I'm going to glue to the back side here. This just makes those lemons stronger, and it kind of forms a handle for the person to open up the flap. So I put 1 blank white die cut there, and I'll put 1 over the other lemon. By the way, I just put my phone there to hold the flap down so that I could glue these on easily. So I'll put this one back here, and now I just have a backing to those lemons that are hanging off the little flap. So there we have our door with the lemons. And you can see how it kind of pops open because I put that extra door piece in there. So here is the finished result. I added some sentiments from that same Zest Wishes stamp set, and I also added some some yellow little gemstones. Now here you can see how that door is kind of popped up a little bit. So it automatically opens a little bit to signal to the person to lift it. You could stamp lift here on here if you want to, or even write it. Doesn't matter. But I thought this popped up enough on its own that it was obvious that you need to lift the flap. And that's because I put that extra door piece in there. Okay, let's do another option. This one I did a little tab that says lift, and this is a super simple design, and I am crazy about this stamp set. Now for this, I use two new stamp sets that really have amazing meaning behind them. This is a stamp set designed by the Inkblot Shop, which is one of my favorite stamp companies, and they designed this for Hero Arts in honor of their 45 years of stamping. And I just think this is an amazing set. She even designed it so that the ruler on the bottom shows the 4 and 5 for 45. I just think that's so thoughtful. This has such fantastic images, especially good for decorating your envelopes. But I decided to make them, or just use the images for a card today. The other stamp set that I'm using on this one is a stamp set designed by Honeybee Stamps in honor of Hero Arts for their 45th anniversary. I really love these collaborations, and this one has a lot of supportive sentiments, which goes well with the collaborative idea also. These stamp sets are fantastic, and I'll be using them throughout the rest of this video. On this card, I'll also be using the Hero Arts Square Peekaboo doors. So this one has a hinge on one side, so you can make the hinge any direction you want on the card. And I'll do a sideways door on this particular version. So I have white cardstock here where I colored the Inkblot Shop's pencils in a rainbow order. That was so much fun to color. And I stamped a sentiment from the Honeybee stamp set. I'm using one of the square doors and running that through my die cut machine. While I'm at it, I have a black note card that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I added white cardstock to that is 4 by 5 1/4, so just a little smaller. That way, when I glue my colorful panel to the front and you open the door, it'll be white instead of black. And I also added white cardstock on the inside while I'm at it, so I had a place to write my message. Okay, so there we have the little door that'll go on the front. Now, in this case, I also created another door to put in there. A little bit different this time, though. I did die cut the door the same way and cut a little flap next to the hinge. But this time, I'm going to use it to sandwich a little circle that says lift. So I stamped lift on the bottom of a circle, and I'm putting adhesive on the other part of the circle and tucking it right behind the door. So it's glued to the back of the door with just half of the circle peeking out. Now the back of this door doesn't look good because you see the other part of the circle and you see my coloring that bled through. So now I have this extra door. Remember that I die cut? And I'll go ahead and glue that to the back. And that sandwiches the tab in there. Also makes the door stand out more so it's easier to open. So now I'm putting adhesive on the back of everything except the door, and I'll put that on the front of our card. So now when you lift the tab, you can see the white inside. I did go ahead and add another sentiment underneath the door and a little pencil image from the same Inkblot Shop stamp set. There I have white on the inside to write my personal message. So you can see how this was a very quick and simple design, but by adding the door, it adds something special to it. And by doing that little circle that says lift, it makes it very clear that the person just needs to lift it to see what's underneath. By the way, I did add Tonic Aqua Shimmer Pen to the pencils just so they had a little bit of sparkle. I think I'll be making a bunch of these for teachers in the new year. Okay, so now I'm going to create another card example using the same two stamp sets, but this time I have a double door. When you open it, there's actually a second door. So this has 3 sentiments. So I'm starting with white cardstock, and I'm going to stamp the fun border from the Inkblot Shop Hero Arts stamp set. I really like this border. It's great on an envelope flap, but you can see here it's great for a border on a card too. So I stamped it once, then I'm going to rotate the paper in my stamping tool and then stamp it again. And this will create 2 borders along our card with an opening there where we can do some stamping in the middle. Off screen, I went ahead and colored this with Copic markers, just did some quick basic coloring. You could use any coloring medium that you prefer. And then it was time to do our door. So I'm using the Hero Arts Rectangle Peekaboo door set. So they have the Peekaboo door dies in rectangle, oval, circle, and square. And I wanted to be able to show you an option for each. Okay, so I ran the largest rectangle through the front center of my card. And there I'm going to go ahead and fold along the hinge. Next, I have another piece of white cardstock that is cut to be slightly smaller. I'm going to hold it center on the back. Hold it there and flip it over and trace the opening with a pencil. People have asked about this pencil I have. It's a bendy pencil. It's one of Lila's. I don't recommend buying them. They're terrible. I just keep forgetting to get a better pencil for my craft room. And then after I traced that, I went ahead and stamped a sentiment right in the center of that tracing. Now I'm taking one of the smaller rectangle door dies, centering it around that sentiment, putting tape on it, and then I'll run that through my die cut machine. Then we can erase the original pencil line there. Now I have a third piece of white cardstock cut a little bit smaller once again. I'm holding it to the back of that last door panel, just holding it there, flipping it over and tracing that door opening onto it so I know where to put my next sentiment, the last sentiment. So inside of that pencil line, I'm stamping our third and final sentiment, and that will be what you see when you open up this second door. So just stick with me here and I'll show you how this all goes together. It's very easy once you see it. Now I have another piece of white cardstock where I've cut those same two doors. I'm going to do the same thing I've done throughout this video, where I cut it so there's a little flap next to the hinge line. You could totally skip this step, but I find that by doing this simple thing, it helps to make the doors pop up a little on their own and easier to open. You don't want the doors to kind of close and get a little stuck there, because then the person would miss the point of it. So by doing this one little thing, it makes a big difference. So I'm taking my smaller door here and gluing it on the back of the door on our panel. So I'm just gluing it right to the back of it. So basically I'm just making the door thicker. And now I'm putting adhesive all along the back of this, but not on the back of the door. So now I'm going to open up the door on this and lay it right on top of our third and final piece with that third sentiment. So I'm just going to lay it right over it so the sentiment shows when you open the door. Now we have the front of the card with the bigger door. I have my extra door piece here. I'm going to put glue on it and glue it right on the back of our stamped door, just so it has a little more thickness and it pops open a little bit easier. I'm putting adhesive on the back, but not on the back of the door. And I'll open up the door and line it up with the other doors inside. So now we have two doors on this card, which I think is super fun. Now I'm going to take this and glue it to the front of a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch black note card. And I also put white cardstock on the inside of the note card for my personal message. So here you can see how both the doors open, revealing another sentiment. Now, if you wanted to, you could add little lift messages or little tabs to it. I decided that these popped open enough on their own, and I'm sending it to a crafty friend who probably will figure out how to open it. But you could always add the lift feature if you wanted. Okay, here is another example where I put the door up against the edge of a card. And I actually think this is one of my favorite designs because it kind of gives a different look. So I'm starting out with the Hero Arts Cherry Blossoms. I've used this die in a video in the past, and I'll link to it here if you want to check it out. And I cut it from craft cardstock. And I'm adding a little bit of darker color using Hero Arts Cup of Joe ink and my iCrafter small blending brushes. I die cut 3 of these, and I'm going to glue them together. I inked 2 of them. I didn't need to. I only needed to ink 1. I changed my mind on how the card was going to go. Didn't want it to go to waste. So I'm just using the 1 on top. So now this is 3 thick just to make it a little more sturdy. The die set also includes these individual flowers, which I cut from Hero Arts pink cardstock, and I'm using my small blending brush to add some ultra pink ink towards the center. And I'm adding a dot of the ultra pink ink in the center with my Fantastics blending tool. So by using different blending tools, you can add quick color to your die cuts, which really brings it to life instead of leaving a flat single color. Okay, next I am going to glue those colorful little blossoms onto my brown die cut. So I did 2 die cuts thick. So I put down 1 pink die cut and then 1 inked pink die cut on top of that. I really wanted a lot of dimension. So after I added all my pink flowers, I did also die cut one of the cherry blossoms from green, cut off the leaves and glued the green leaves onto, and you can see how it makes it much more realistic. Now it's time to create our background and the door feature. I used the Hero Arts Waves and Clouds stamp, and I stamped this with white pigment ink on some soft blue cardstock that is 4 by 5 1/4. I'm using the large oval door die once again, but this time I'm lining up the hinge with the edge of that piece. So you can see how the hinge is lined up on the edge there, and I'll run it through, and that creates an oval that just hangs off. And I'm going to keep both of these pieces. I'll need both pieces. Next, I have a piece of white cardstock that's slightly bigger. It's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm going to temporarily adhere this piece right in the center. I'm then taking the same oval die and I'm going to pop it right in place. It'll fit in place nicely. I then will take some tape and tape it onto the white so that I can remove the blue piece and run the white piece and the die through my die cut machine alone. After I run it through, you can see how the hinge is close to the edge of my cardstock, but it creates this little door that will line up with the edge of our blue cardstock piece when we add it back on. Okay, so now I have my blue cardstock piece. I'm going to glue the negative space on first. You can use any adhesive for this. And now I'm going to take the other blue oval piece and glue that to the front of the white door. So in this case, the white piece on the back has the hinge on it for the door. I also have a white note card here that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I've already stamped my sentiment that will go behind the door. But when I do this, the door closes flat and it kind of gets stuck in there. I want to make sure it opens easily. So I created this extra door, just like I've done before, with the hinge and the flap on it, putting adhesive on the front of this door, and I'll glue it to the back inside. Again, this is just going to make the door thicker so it stands out more from the opening on our card. Now we can glue this to the front of our note card. So this white piece that I'm putting glue on now is the same size as our note card. I am going to put some strong liquid adhesive right there next to that hinge of our door because I don't want that to come undone. And then I'll place this on the front of our card. Again, these are the same sizes, so it'll go right up to the edge. I will take my bone folder and run right along that hinge area. I want to make sure that glue stays there so that the hinge is nice and secure and the door can open and close easily. I went ahead and stamped another sentiment on the front of the card, added our stacked die cut, and now I'm adding some Studio Katia pearls to the center of each of the flowers. And by the way, I poured all my pearls into this Trinity Stamps tidy tray, which is super handy if you like doing pearls like I do. Okay, so here's a look at the finished card. I decided to not put a lift sentiment or a little tab on here. You definitely could if you wanted to. I felt like it popped open enough and was obvious. So you can see how it's on the edge of the card and gives a really unique looking design. Here's a close-up look at the inking that I did and also the white stamping that's very subtle on the background. But when you tilt it in the light, it really catches it nicely. And here's one more completed example for you. I used the square door dies for this one and also the honeybee stamp set. I did stamp with soft granite ink hearts on the background using the Bursting with Love background stamp. Very simple design, but this shows you can take a simple image, add the door to it, and it just adds quite a bit of interest. Okay, now if you were interested in creating a door on the front of your card, but you didn't have these door dies, you could definitely use any of your basic shape dies, your squares, your circles, your ovals, and you just need to do a partial die cutting technique. Now I will say buying the door set is definitely much easier and more accurate if you are going to be making multiples like I did today, but this is how you can do it with a regular die. I have a circle die and some cardstock, and I'm putting my top cutting plate so part of the circle die hangs out of the edge. So anything under the cutting plate will cut, anything hanging out won't. You can run this through your die cut machine and it'll create a partial circle door. Then all you have to do is take it to your scoring tool and put a little score line to connect where the two ends are. So one end to the other, do a little score line, and there you have a hinge door for the front of your card. So there you have a bunch of ideas for creating these fun peekaboo doors for the front of your cards. I hope you'll try it. It's really fun to do, and those die sets definitely make it easy. If you are interested in the different products that I use today, I always link to multiple sources below in my YouTube description. You can also head to my blog. You can click here on the top right to do so. Photos of all the different cards that I created. In the middle are a couple other videos that you might like. And as always, I really appreciate the time that you've spent here today. I hope you have a wonderful day and we'll see you again very soon.